Okay, what if I told you that everything we believe about life being good and death being bad is completely backward? Today, we're diving into a really profound and honestly challenging philosophy from our source text that just turns that whole idea on its head. This is a journey that might just change the way you see, well, everything. Right off the bat, the source text doesn't mess around. It throws this really provocative question right at us. And this question is the foundation for this entire way of thinking. We're all taught that life is this precious thing and death is this awful tragedy. But the author asks, what if we've been looking at it all wrong this whole time? And there it is. That's the core thesis. And wow, it is a startling one. I mean, that just flips everything most of us believe upside down, right? The argument is that our constant, relentless pursuit of life is actually the source of all our problems. So, how on earth do they build that case? Well, the argument kicks off by reframing our entire existence. From this point of view, our modern life isn't a gift, it's a nonstop rat race. It's this huge sea of suffering that we're all just thrown into from the moment we exist. It's a pretty bleak picture, so let's break down how they see it. The author actually charts this timeline of pressure starting from before we're even born, with something called antenatal training. From there, it's presented as just a lifetime of endless competition. You've got the heavy school bags in childhood, then the intense pressure of university, and it all culminates in this harsh realization that, for so many people, their dreams and reality, they just don't match up. And even if you make it through that whole educational gauntlet, the author argues that life just throws a whole new set of burdens at you. You can see it here. The pressures of marriage, a house, a car, taking care of your parents and your own kids, ethical conflicts, and then, of course, the inevitable realities of getting sick, getting older, and eventually dying. It's all part of this inescapable cycle. And this feeling of spiritual decay is really captured in a quote the author shares from a conversation they had. Nowadays, money is God. How much is conscience worth? It really points to this idea that we're living in a world where material wealth has completely replaced our moral compass. So after laying out this entire lifelong timeline of pressure and what they see as spiritual emptiness, the author comes to this very stark conclusion. Life isn't a gift to be cherished, but a sea of suffering that we have to get through. It's a really grim thought, for sure, but it's what sets the stage for a very, very specific kind of solution. Okay, so if life is this big sea of suffering, the author's radical solution is to simply turn back. But what does that actually mean? Well, it's not about trying to swim harder or finding some little island of happiness in the middle of the struggle. No, it's about getting out of the water completely. And let's be really clear about what turning back means here. The shore, that escape from the sea of suffering, is defined as nirvana. And according to this text, that state is ultimately achieved through death, the final release from this whole cycle of struggle. So if nirvana is the ultimate goal, the obvious next question is, how in the world do you achieve it? The author doesn't just point out the problem of suffering, they also lay out a very specific internal path you have to take to get to this state of release. The path they describe isn't external, it's a totally internal journey. It involves this deep, deep process of self-refinement, of raising your own consciousness way beyond the day-to-day grind, and finally, gaining what the author calls wisdom. And I want to be really clear here. When the text talks about wisdom, it doesn't just mean being smart or knowing a lot of facts. It's defined very specifically as a supreme, profound understanding of the true nature of life and death themselves, the very concepts we're grappling with right now. All right. Now this is where the argument takes a turn and gets a little more metaphysical. To really accept this path, the author says we first have to accept that there's more to reality than just what we can physically see and measure. The argument here is actually pretty simple. Science is an amazing tool, but it has its limits. It's designed to understand the material world. But what about the non-material things, like, say, your consciousness? The text makes the point that just because science can't measure your consciousness, it can't tell you its weight or its color or its shape, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Now, to back up this idea of a non-material reality, the author points to three different kinds of, let's call it, evidence. First, historical records from all sorts of cultures that talk about past lives. Second, modern research into near-death experiences. And third, the teachings of great sages and saints like Jesus and Sakyamuni, who described realms that exist beyond our own. So, all of this, the suffering, nirvana, this idea of another reality, it's all been building to this one massive, ultimate question. One of the oldest questions in all of philosophy: who or what am I really? So the text starts peeling back the layers of who we think we are. Are you your family, your clothes? No, of course not. You're still you without them. Those are just external things. Okay, what about your body then? Are you your eyes, your legs, your heart? The text argues no. You'd still be you if you were blind, or lost a limb, or even got a heart transplant. So if you aren't your possessions, or your relationships, or even your own physical body, then the question just hangs there in the air. After you strip away every single thing, your stuff, your relationships, even your own flesh and blood, what is left? Who are you, really? And here it is, the author's answer. The true you is your consciousness, or what the text calls the Tathagata. This is described as your essential soul, something that exists completely separate from your physical body. In this view, your body isn't who you are, it's just the temporary home where your true self is living. And this analogy from the text just makes it perfectly clear. Your true self, your consciousness, is the traveler. Your physical body is just a borrowed boat, a vessel that you need to cross that sea of suffering. And, crucially, once you reach the other shore, you leave the boat behind. So after this whole journey through a view of life as suffering and the self is just a passenger in a physical body, the text leaves us chewing on this one final, really profound question. If we are not our bodies, then what does it actually mean to truly live?